Welcome to Rambam in Depth. Today we'll be discussing the Rambam Hilchos Keilim, Perek Hey, Halacha Zayin. And the Rambam discusses the laws of Keilim, of vessels that are considered to be vessels, and it could become susceptible to impurity. So he says, a keren, a horn of an animal, Shul mishtamash ba mashlicha, he uses it once and he throws it out. Ein mekabelas tumah, it does not become susceptible to impurity because it's thrown out. So the question has been asked and resolved from this Rambam whether one could use disposable cups for Kiddush, Havdalah, for washing your hands, because after all, it's a Keili. It's used for the wine, for the water, whatever it is that's in it. It's a clay kibul, but it's disposable. It's like the keren. It's like this horn that you throw out. So there's a Shraga Shraga HaMeir who says, no, it's not acceptable, and others as well agree with that you can't use a disposable cup for Kiddush, which is a very practical halacha, because when you go to a Kiddush in a Shul, very often, if you want to make your own Kiddush, not everyone has a becher, so you use disposable plastic cups. According to this, you couldn't use it, because here we have an example of a keren, which is used once, and it's not makabel tumah. However, there are others who disagree and refute this proof. Tzitz Eliezer says it's not a rai over here, because if you really look into the Rambam, it seems that the Rambam is contradicting himself. Here he says that a disposable keren that you throw out, use once, and you throw it out, is not makabel tumah. Yet earlier in Perek Beis Halacha Aleph, the Rambam says any clay kibul is makabel tumah, a vessel that can contain something is makabel tumah. And then he adds, even if it was made out of paper or from the shell of a pomegranate by children who use it for a game, for playing, then it's considered to be a Keili and it's makabel tumah. The only exception, the Rambam says, that if it's not something that will last, it'll wither away, it'll disintegrate, like a dry gourd, the Rambam says, that's going to become rotten, then it's not makabel tumah. But otherwise, if it can be used more than once, then it's not makabel tumah. So we have a contradiction over here. It is makabel tumah if it could be used more than once, even though it is going to be disposable. So we have a contradiction. So the difference is very simple. Here we're talking about a keren. A keren is not something that looks like a keili. People don't look at a horn of an animal and say, oh, here's a keili. So the only reason why it becomes a keili, and it could be makabel tumah, is because you had in mind that this should become a keili. You made this into a keili through your machshava. You miyachad it. You designated it as a keili. But if you're not planning to keep it, you're going to throw it out after one-time usage, it reverts to the case of any keren, which is not a keili. By definition, it doesn't have any intrinsic value as a keili because it's not intended as a keili. You make it into a keili by your intention, but if your intention is not to use it anymore, so you take away the status of keili from it, therefore it's not makabel tumah. On the other hand, when something is made out of paper or made out of the shell of a pomegranate, since it has the shape of a keili, even though it's a flimsy keili, but it still has the shape of a keili, so it's inherently a keili. It's not based on a keili because of your thought. So therefore, it could be makabel tumah. So the answer to the question, could you use a plastic disposable cup? According to this, we're not paskening over here, of course. According to this analysis, yes, you could use it because it has the shape of a keili and it could last more than once. The only reason why we don't use it more than once is because it's disposable. It's cheap. We could afford to use a fresh cup. We don't have to use an old cup and wash it out. But it's not because it has no substance of a keili the way the dried out gourd would be, and therefore it's not a keili because we made it into a keili. It's a keili because it's inherently a keili. Therefore, it has the status of a keili. It's makabel tumah, and therefore it could be used for Kiddush, Havdalah, and for washing your hands for hamotzi.